Peace, peace, peace to the gods, peace to the gods. How's everybody doing today? Back again. Got a good show lined up for you today. Today, I got some things I want to talk about. What's up, Miss Brown? Good afternoon, Yusef. How's your week so far? Great. Thank you for asking. Today, I got some things I want to discuss. You know, there has been a lot of talk about, does the government have jurisdiction over you or not? That's like a real, like a real big thing that always gets stuff. Well, you don't have jurisdiction over me. And today we're going to talk about that. Now, and what we're going to talk about it in there's a document I'm going to read. This is going to be like a study class, all right? Now, there was this video that got put out a long time ago. I remember some years back. It was called From Freedom to Fascism. It was created by the guy who made 48 Hours with Eddie Murphy. His name was Aaron Russo. He is no longer with us, but Aaron Russo was friends with some of the Rockefellers, and he had some inside information about plans for the New World Order, how they were going to plan to microchip people and things of that nature, and exactly what was coming. He had some insight. He was an insider, whistleblower. Well, additionally to that, there was this big thing about the federal government and taxes. One thing about in this space that people have to understand is that the financial system is at the center of everything. Your social security number, the birth certificate, all these things, really, they are all just some sort of adjunct to the real issue, and that is the financial system, the banking system, the Federal Reserve, the IRS, the Federal Reserve, all this is surrounding that. And I had an opportunity to speak to one of the IRS agents who was in the video From Freedom to Fascism, when they were asking everybody, show us the contract that shows where you have to pay taxes. And a lot of people, they have been saying, well, there isn't any law that says you have to pay taxes. Well, of course there's not, because the IRS has repeatedly stated that taxes are voluntary. All right, it's voluntary. And a lot of people get mixed up and confused on that. One of the things I talk, usually the detractors who talk about me, they're just government in a evil light. So today we're going to get into a little discussion about public and private, and we're going to be reviewing a document that is called Invisible Contracts. Now, Invisible Contracts is a document that this IRS agent read that made them switch their position on, is there a law that says we don't have to pay taxes? All right, is there a law that says we don't have to pay taxes? Hold on. Trying to see what's going on with the stream. One thing, it's another. Somebody don't want me to do this live stream. Let me ask everybody, is this coming through smooth for everyone? It's telling me that my live stream is not streaming smoothly. Let me see what we got here. Make sure I'm everything looks good. Okay. Okay, it was tweaking up, but it's good now. A minute ago, it was acting up a little bit. Had a slight glitch. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so we're good. All right. That's good. Okay. So we're going to be reviewing this document. This is like a study class, so I want all of you to pull out your pens and pencils, because what I'm going to try to convey in this video today is to get you an understanding of the nature of the jurisdiction that the federal government has. Is it good for you to challenge jurisdiction? Is the government right in what they're saying a lot of times? As far as what is the extent of their jurisdiction? What are these contracts? What are these adhesion contracts that people like to talk about? As a matter of fact, Gene Keating was the first person I heard use the term adhesion contract in this space. What is it? What is the minimum contact that we have with the government that allows them to presume that they have this jurisdiction over us? Now, earlier today, I posted a video with Alfred Addis, and if you listen to it, he says a lot of the same things that I said. As a matter of fact, Alfred, if you're watching, I was able to see that thing with animals as well. However, I took it further and got an Oxford Unabridged dictionary and looked up the definition of an animal. An animal does not necessarily mean dogs and cats and things like that. It means a living creature. And like the word animate comes from the word animal. They're synonymous. So it means a living creature. So I'm not really sure, you say, well, they think we're animals, well, in a certain sense, yes, human beings are animals, in a certain light. We're the highest level of intelligence on this planet, and we're the caretakers of the planet. But also, according to Teddy Roosevelt, he said, if you're going to be a sovereign, you got to act like a sovereign. You got to be responsible. Freedom comes with responsibility. And right now it's being proselytized in the public as a lack of responsibility, victimhood, which is deeply associated with communism. Everywhere I look, I'm seeing communism. And this thing that people keep talking about, that we're under white supremacy. We are not under white supremacy. We are under Zionism. And you're going to have to get out of your mind that white people and Zionists are one and the same, because they're not. That is very important for you to understand. We'll get to it. All right, we're going to get to that. But today, we're going to be reading this document, Invisible Contracts. I want you to thoroughly understand that. I was going to do an audio book on it, but I decided against it and just do a live audio where I actually read it for you and have a discussion about the contents of this book. This particular subject is going to go over several days, because obviously I'm not going to be able to get through this entire book in one day. But I think it's important for you to understand. In hand, what's going to go with this book for you to understand it is William Blackstone commentaries. If you've never read William Blackstone commentaries, I do have a PDF copy of it on SPC University. You simply go to the download section of the website. You do not have to be a member, and you can get a copy of it and download it. The reason I'm talking about William Blackstone commentaries is because the laws in the United States are derived from William Blackstone commentaries out of England, as well as the Bible. Okay, that's where the laws in this country derive from. That's where they originate from. So we need to get some understanding about some things. So today is going to be a history lesson. I'm going to make sure that you kind of get some insight into some things. This is probably one of the most important books that you can read, is Invisible Contracts and the Armand Kondo Letter. Now, so I'm going to put it on Front Street, and I'm going to get people to read it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's look at this book, Invisible Contracts. Invisible Contracts. Look at this book real quick. By George Mercier. Okay, so the contents of the letter, the Armand Kondo Letter, that's the thing that jumped this off. He wrote a letter to someone trying to help them with a tax case. And this individual, he was a lot like all of you. Somebody comes in who's more knowledgeable and tries to tell you that you're on the wrong course and you don't want to listen because you've been listening to Guru so-and-so, and you like Guru so-and-so because he's demonizing the government and giving you a process that you don't have to read anything, like birth certificate authentication. You can be the registered owner of your estate, and all you have to do is authenticate the birth certificate, and you're a free sovereign. I don't understand why people keep on asking me about that birth certificate authentication. People ever since about it, and it's just, I just don't understand. But anyway, let's keep going. Let's get to the meat of the situation. So we have the Armand Kondo Letter, which is the background of all this, why the Invisible Contracts was written. It all originated with the Armand-Kondo letter. The introduction, third-party interference with a contract, bank accounts, the story of banking, the employment contract, admiralty jurisdiction, the citizenship contract, Federal Reserve notes, insurance programs, federal licensing programs, state-created juristic benefits, government enforcement of commercial interests, the residency contract, an endless list, unavailable, an epilogue, unavailable, a help file. Okay. So this document is available on SBC University as well on the download section. Once again, you don't have to be a member. You can go right over there and download this. And I would highly suggest you have a study group on it. And this is something you really, really need to read to understand some things, because this individual is extremely intelligent, extremely insightful, and has a very, very finely tuned understanding of all these processes. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so let's read some things first. We're going to start with the Armand-Kondo letter, because we got to understand, okay, how did all of this begin? Well, it started with someone having problems with the IRS, an IRS problem. All right, you know how people, when they come into this space, a lot of people have differences, different reasons why they come into this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do a review on some people on Patrick Divine where they saying, well, you get a private trust, you don't have to pay taxes. That right there is demonic. That is so ignorant that it's almost criminal. It's almost criminal. I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. It's a lot of things I got to do, a lot of videos I got to do on certain things. So you're probably going to be seeing me doing multiple videos during the day. All right, so the Armand-Kondo letter. So let's read this and let's get some background on what happened. How did we get where we're at? So this is Mercier. He's writing a letter to someone to try to assist them with an understanding of minimum contacts. All right, so in August 1984, Armand-Kondo, founder of Your Heritage Protection Agency, when, wanted like I'm the founder of SBC University. Back then, always people have been having all these, private groups and advocacy groups and redemption groups and, patriot groups and things of that nature have been around for a very long time. All right, so in August 1984, Armand-Kondo, founder of Your Heritage Protection Agency, was being prosecuted by the federal government under numerous tax-related statutes, as well as other collateral charges such as mail fraud. And the government always seems, if you ever get a government indictment and it's something like white collar, somewhere in there is going to be a mail fraud charge too. They always like to get you with interstate commerce and using the mail if you do anything. But anyway, the YHPA is still, the record holds to this day, the largest organized tax protester group to ever have existed in the United States, with respectful deference to our founding fathers and innumerable fellow unsung tax protester patriots living and laying their lives on the line in the 1700s for our benefit today. In its heyday in the 1970s/1980s, the YHPA's dues-paying membership reached well into $20,000 to $30,000 range before it was ultimately brought into a state of non-existence through the intervention of strongly persuasive federal influences. Look at this, they had 30,000 members. Man, do you know if I had 30,000 members on SBC University, man, that's a lot of damn members. 30,000 members. And this is the key word, strongly persuasive federal influences. What do you think they meant with that? This is also why you got to be very careful about when you sign like petitions. I don't ever sign a petition or put my real information on any petition. And I get that from the 48 Laws of Power, where you stay neutral in certain situations in the public. Regardless of how you feel internally, you don't put your information out there in the public like that. Watch out, because a lot of times they're trying to pinpoint individuals and locate certain individuals, and they have infiltration technique. They infiltrate everything. There are feds on SBC University. You can definitely believe that. There are feds in my Facebook group. It's kind of like with heat, when they were asking my man, what do you think, the police, do they know? He said, always assume they know everything. When you're in this space, always assume the federal government knows everything. They're in your business. You're on YouTube. You're talking about this. Always assume they know everything about you if you're in the public, all right? Always assume that. So these strongly persuasive federal influences brought a 30,000 member tax protester group down to nothing. So let's see. It says the YHPA published a fairly thick newspaper and continued on in its efforts for several years, with their primary focus based on the legitimacy of Federal Reserve notes, containing thereon that receipt of said Federal Reserve notes did not constitute income. Therefore, no one receiving said notes was liable under federal income tax statutes. Although additional proprietary tax protester positions were routinely addressed, the YHPA's primary focus remained centered around Federal Reserve notes. And I can see them making that argument. It's a promise to pay. You're not being paid. So are you taxing me on income? Note, individuals choosing to join the YHPA, usually photos were taken. The YHPA kept one photo and you received the other, using a dual photo camera similar to the dual photo cameras used at your local Department of Motor Vehicles or local passport photo vendor. And slick professional looking ID cards were processed on the spot and given to each new member at the time. So, you know, they had their thing together. They were organized, giving you private. You've seen some of the private. I could make those, and I've been thinking about making some and showing you how it's done. All you guys, you Moors out there to make these private in that. In case you were wondering what I went to federal prison for, I was a master at well, I wasn't copying Federal Reserve notes or anything, but I could copy anything. I could copy professionally. You couldn't tell the difference from the original and the copy. You know, anything in the financial area, IDs, any type of bank, just anything. I was extremely professional with that. And so I know everything about that space. You can't tell me anything about that space, nothing. A lot of y'all probably involved in that. If you're involved in some sort of unsavory activity on the wrong side of the law, I'm probably your daddy. And you learned all that from something I left behind. Okay? But anyway, that was a long time ago. That was over 25 years ago. I left that life a long time ago. Now it goes on. It says, in hindsight, the stated reason given at the dinner seminars with respect to the necessity of creating a photo ID card were rather specious at best. And in fact, there was some additional hindsight talk that perhaps the YHPA was a federal tax protester sting operation all along, designed to attract and then identify. And that's usually what happens. They will set something up to identify who the dissidents are. You got to be careful about that. You know, you don't need to put your personal information anywhere in the public. You need to start practicing that or giving them wrong information. Don't feel a need to give your private information. I remember one time a guy said, well, what do you have to hide? I said, I don't have nothing to hide. I have right to privacy. I have to tell you shit. What do you mean? You know, you trying to make me seem like I'm a criminal because I don't want to put my private information into the public. I had to explain to him in no uncertain terms that no, I'm not involved in anything criminal. I just got a right to privacy. You do understand that and understand what that means, right? Always hit them with a question. It's just more impactful. You do understand what the right to privacy means, correct? Hit them with a question at the end of your statement. All right? So, are we talking about a sting operation where people, we don't have to pay taxes? You know, that is the biggest thing. I can tell you right now, if you're involved in anything that's tax protester related, you're on the top of the federal government's hit list. Tell you straight up right now. If you're posting that on the internet, anything like that, you in the crosshairs right now, and they waiting for you to trip up one time. I'm telling you. All right, play with it if you want. For example, in the USSR, the KGB is known to have secretly created, sponsored is more like it, various protester groups for the sole purpose of throwing out some attractive philosophy designed to attract a certain type of individual, and then having extracted those individuals from society and having thus identified them, then shutting down the organization and arresting the members. This practice is a utilization of the principle known as the doctrine of false opposition, or y'all like to call it controlled opposition. You know, they've said that Yusef is controlled opposition. No, I'm the best thing that you got. I'm trying to tell you the truth. Yusef is controlled opposition. Okay, just making sure. Okay. Got everything? Okay. All right. All right, so let's keep going. After all, it is rather suspicious, if not ironic, that an organization purporting to be highly critical of government and taking a relative radical approach to saying non-filing tax protesters sign up here and having an orientation favoring the individual over government in general would in fact so closely emulate Big Brother tactics, such as requiring a photo ID card for all this process of the I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to like you. It's the angry ones we cannot deal with. You got to stay away from that anger if you're in. This is why they give people, I believe, mentally, allegedly associated. Like a lot of people don't understand why they do psychological evaluations. They understand that when people find out the truth, they get angry. All right, so against this backdrop, George Mercier wrote a thoughtful advisory letter to Armand Kondo in August of 1984, seeking to correctively alter the course of Kondo was pursuing vis-a-vis federal case, with the objective of the letter being oriented toward keeping Armand Kondo out of a federal cage. And with respect to Armand Kondo, the letter was a wash, as Armand Kondo was highly unreceptive to its contents, being in an unteachable state of mind, and so he rejected it in toto. In toto means to the full extent. This is the thing, you know, you have to there's thing called a teachability index, and you need to be fully teachable if you're going to learn this information. But if you have, it's what with Jesus, he used to say the same thing as a teacher. He said, if you do not become as little children, you will not ever see the kingdom of heaven. Little children do not have their own opinions. Little children are receptive to learning and teaching. They're not argumentative. They don't use the word but all the time. You know, you're right, but. You're right, but. As soon as somebody say but to me, I know they're not listening. I cut them off. Ain't no but. There's no but. Even Yoda had to cut off Luke Skywalker. There's no try. You either do or don't do. So Armand Kondo was not receptive, and this man is trying to help him stay out of jail. So let's look and see. He was highly unreceptive, being in an unteachable state of mind, and so he rejected it in toto. However, the letter did not stop there with Armand Kondo. In fact, it somehow exploded into the General Patriot Pipeline network and was widely copied and circulated all across the country. Although Armand Kondo reacted adversely to the letter, it found a very receptive and appreciative audience amongst patriots across the nation. And that's because you have some people such as myself who can read with understanding. We've conducted a lot of research on our own, and so we can read this and we can see how it's connected to what we've read and studied. You know, that's at least what it was with me. You know, I just didn't like the dude because I just like him. I'm like, hey, he's on the same pathway that I'm on. So it goes on and says, one such copy of the letter found its way into the hands of Frank May, who subsequently wrote an intelligent and thoughtful letter to George Mercier, seeking an explanation and seeking an expansion of the enticing data contained in the Armand Kondo letter. Expansion he wanted, expansion he got, because George Mercier in turn wrote a reply letter to Frank May, a 745-page letter, which then became a privately published book entitled Invisible Contracts. The Frank May letter dated December 31st, 1985. So without further commentary, what follows is the original letter to Armand Kondo, the letter which started it all, August 1984. I want y'all to pay attention to the date so you can see how far this information has been around. 1984. Dear Mr. Kondo, all right, so here's the letter that started it all. Dear Mr. Kondo, I just received your periodical YHPA for March 1984, which I had requested from your organization for the purpose of contemplating subscribing to it. In analyzing the contents of your magazine, I found that the United States is apparently trying to, number one, get a restraining order to shut down your operation, and number two, trying to get a feel for your sentiments toward the United States for doing these things to you. I detected underlying feelings of anxiety and some resentment on your part. Therefore, what I have to say will only be of value to you to the extent that you are in a teachable attitude. I'm saying that to all of you out there. Are you in a teachable attitude right now? I know that I'm taking a shot in the dark by telling you things which follow, but I think it's important that someone inform you why you are on the left side of the issues and why and how the United States is on the right side of the issues. Just somebody like myself saying that, you're automatically going to get charged with being some sort of government agent or something like that. The government just couldn't possibly be right on nothing. These are the people that got to be very careful about. All right, they're not objective in their thinking, just not intelligent at all. An intelligent person would never think like that in the first place. It's just not intelligent to think like that. All right, you won't consider for one instance that you may be mistaken. And that the federal judge is merely enforcing private agreements that you continue to maintain in effect with the U.S. Secretary of Treasury. So, right here, George Mercier says we're under some sort of contract, which was what you have to be in admiralty. A contract is in existence. So he's confirming what a lot of patriots have been saying for a long time in the first place. It's involving some sort of contract. Contract law is private law anyway. All interaction between human beings is commercial in nature and contractual in nature. Marriage is a contract. All right? Let me keep going. By the time you receive this letter in August, the judge may have already taken some action on the government's petition for a restraining order against you. I do not know the present status of that action, but the information you need to know will be important to you either way the judge rules. If the restraining order has been granted, I can show you how to get it reversed next January. Before I identify the private agreement you continue to maintain with the Secretary of the Treasury, which agreement places you into a written equity relationship with the United States, there's a fundamental principle underlying American jurisprudence you must be aware of as background material to understand what follows. This principle is a hybrid corollary and consistent extension of the evidentiary doctrine that specifically in evidence, that specificity in evidence will always overrule generalities in evidence, even when they are in direct conflict with each other. For example, the statement by one witness to a crime that, and before all of you are caught up on processes. Everybody caught up on the process is not very intelligent. They're just not. They're beginners or something like that. Because why are you studying processes and not studying principles? Any type of area of expertise understands the first thing you always study is the principles of anything you're involved in. Even with nature. The laws of nature are principles. All right, so let's read this example of what he's talking about to give you how specific evidence overrules general evidence. Now, you can make a statement, I saw a woman run around the corner, it wasn't a man, and therefore the defendant, who is a man, isn't the criminal. That statement would be overruled by this statement from another witness. The person I saw run around the corner had long hair, a beard, and something like a tattoo on his neck. All right? It's going to overrule that it wasn't a man. All right, hence, conflicts in testimony are always resolved. And you can tell whoever this guy is, man, I'm telling you, he's definitely on the inside. This dude right here, he's very, 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 very experienced in law. I don't know if it's a judge or whatever. I'm not sure who he is, but he's extremely knowledgeable about law, jurisdiction, a lot of things like that, which is one of the reasons I'm always suggesting this book, but people don't read it. So I'm going to read it for you. Hence, conflicts in testimony are always resolved by giving the greater weight to the most specific statements. This is also the way equity grievances and contract disputes are settled. The most specific detailed clause governing in the disputed circumstance is construed to be the statement meant to govern the disputed circumstance, even though broader, more general statements can be found in the contract and may favor the other party. The principle that, and you need to understand that, because when you get ruled against and you think that the judge is corrupt or something like that, that is something that you need to take into consideration. The principle that applies to your relationship with the king being the United States. Now, this is why I brought up Blackstone commentaries. I'd read Blackstone commentaries before I read this. Blackstone commentaries comes out of England, so the laws, the government there was the king. It was a monarchy, so the reference was always to the king. The United States copied their laws from England. However, we have laws against titles of nobility. So we don't have titles like king and lord and commoner and things of that nature. However, our system still emulates their system. Over in their parliament, they have a House of Lords and a House of Commons. Because in the United States, we don't have titles of nobility. We have laws against that. So So we call ours the Senate and the House of Representatives. But they're the same exact thing, okay? So when you see king, king would be in place of the government. The government is the king. All right, we don't have a monarchy in the United States. We have a Republican form of government, but the government sits in the same position as the king. However, we do not have a monarchy. Our government is in a trust relationship with the citizens because we got a document called the Constitution of the United States of America. Over there, they don't have a written constitution. In the United States, we do. So our government servants have a fiduciary relationship to the people of the republic, not the democracy. All right, you getting that? All right, so let's keep going. The principle that applies to your relationship with the king, I'm reading this right here, right? Let me show y'all where I'm at, in case you're getting lost. All right. The principle that applies to your relationship with the king being the United States, the Constitution being essentially a rename enactment of English common law as it was at the time, with only additional restraints being placed on the king, is the principle that private agreements will always overrule the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Thus, specific agreements governing individual circumstances will always overrule broad general clauses found in the Constitution. So that is the principle for you to understand. Contract makes the law. There is a clause in the Constitution that the government can make no rule that will infringe on the obligation of contracts. Contracts, when you're dealing with a contract, the Constitution doesn't even is not even a party to it. The Constitution governs the public. Contracts govern the private. That is something very, very important for you to understand. Very, very important for you to understand. A lot of people have this notion in their mind that the Constitution is all-encompassing. If you go to Wikipedia right now and look up, and I'm going to show you right now. Let's go over here and look at this real quick. We go over to Wikipedia and we pull up public law. And right here it says public law is that part of the law governs relations and affairs between legal persons. So we know that the government only deals with artificial entities and the government. And so every time we say I'm the real living man, there's reason for that if you're watching that. The government only deals with artificial persons. Between different institutions within a state, between different branches of government, as well as relations between persons that are of direct concern to society. Public law comprises constitutional law, administrative law, tax law, criminal law, as well as procedural law. So when you go to SBC University, when you look at what I put at SBC University, and you go over here on the website, and you go to my downloads, and over here you see the public and private chart, and that's what I did. I wrote that. It's where I got that from. Public law over here, private law over here, contract is over here, Constitution is over here. The Constitution really doesn't have anything to do with you. The Constitution formed government and it gives government powers and it restrains government. It didn't give you any rights. You don't have any constitutional rights. You have constitutionally protected rights. Now, they do give you civil rights that operate within their jurisdiction. They have to give you rights if you come within their compass. But as a private American citizen, which was when this was written, that's how they contemplated everything, because when the Constitution was written, wasn't no downtown corporations where people went to work and all of that right there. When the Constitution was written, people built their own houses, grew their own food, educated their own children, packed guns, would shoot your ass down. You could be, if you wanted to have a gunfight, you could, as long as you would shoot a man in the back. You are sovereigns. That is how the Constitution was written, and that spirit is still alive and well today if it were not for the fact that people have a welfare mentality and a victim mentality. They don't understand what freedom is. The real living soul. if we go back over here and pull up private law, it will co-sign what I just said. Private law is that part of the civil law legal system, which is part of the just commune that involves relationship between individuals, such as the law of contracts and torts, as it is called in the common law, and the law of obligations, as it is called in the civil legal systems. It is to be distinguished from public law, which deals with relationship between natural and artificial persons, namely organizations, and the state, including regulatory statutes, penal law, and other that affect public order. In general terms, private law involves interactions between private individuals, whereas the public law involves interrelations between the state and the general population. I like how that says. So right here, you can see the contracts and torts. Contract is on the private side, all right? Private over here. We deal in contracts. That's why we put a clause in the Constitution that they cannot write any law that will infringe on the obligation of contracts. In other words, we told the federal government when it comes to a contract, stay out of our business. However, contracts are a double-edged sword. They can work for you or against you. Contracts have always been something that private citizens deal with. You have a contract with God. It's called a covenant. You can enter a contract with Satan and sell your soul. Your contract with your wife, a marriage contract. This is what we deal in. When you utilize a private trust, it is a contract. Contracts are adjudicated in equity. God judges with equity. Why is that? He will judge with equity, Psalms 96. He will judge with equity. It's a whole bunch of them. Before the Lord, for he cometh to judge the earth with righteousness, shall he judge the world and the people with equity, fairness, impartiality, and even-handed dealing. He ain't gonna show you no special favoritism. You either did or you did not. And right now, we are far beyond Sodom and Gomorrah. Just abortions alone, the homosexuality. People have the audacity and the unmitigated gall to talk about Sodom and Gomorrah. We are well beyond Sodom and Gomorrah. What those people were doing ain't nothing compared to what's going on today. Well beyond Sodom and Gomorrah. My goodness. All right, let's get back to the Armin Kondo letter. Okay. So let me read it again. The principle that applies to your relationship with the king being the United States, the Constitution being essentially a rename enactment of English common law, as it was at the time with only additional restraints being placed on the king, is the principle that private agreements will always overrule the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Thus, specific agreements governing individual circumstances will always overrule broad general clauses found in the Constitution. And you can see this if you bought a house. If you go look at your mortgage contract, you got a waiver clause in there where you waive constitutional protections. Same thing with a car contract. It's called confessed judgment. Confessed judgment. That's in every car contract. Confessed. That's why they can repo your car without taking you to court because of that clause that's in it. Confessed judgment. Confession of judgment. A confession of judgment is a legal device, usually a clause within a contract in which a debtor agrees to allow a creditor upon the non-occurrence of payment to obtain judgment against the debtor, often without advance notice or a hearing. These clauses may also require a debtor to waive their right to assert any defense against the entry of judgment or the represented by an attorney appointed by the creditor. So as you can see, you can sign a contract and it will overrule the Constitution. We in class today, or expressed in other words, it is irrational to allow someone to enter into a private agreement with someone and then allow him to take a clause out of the Constitution, off point and out of context. You know what an off point argument is, right? We're in class today, so we're going to go through this slowly. I know people ain't up on their vocabulary. Off point argument. What is an off point argument? Off point definition. The phrase out of point is grammatically correct and can be used in English. The phrase typically means that something is irrelevant to the main topic of a discussion. For example, you could say your comments about the president's policies are out of point. They say out of point, but off point is the legal. Let me see if it's legal. It's not, it's off. Let me see if I can find the legal definition. When someone is off point, it means they are not discussing the exact topic that is being talked about. This can make their comments or ideas irrelevant to the conversation. The opposite of off point is on point, which means someone is discussing the exact issue at hand. So these are legal terms, off point argument and on point argument. A lot of people make off point arguments or arguments that are not germane to what we're talking about. A lot of you do that. Like you have someone right now in the audience hoping that I talk about fucking child support, even though I titled the video Invisible Contracts. You have some idiot come in the chat, and you have to do that. I have to call him an idiot because that's what they do in Harvard. The environment. Just don't listen. Go somewhere else. I'll get to the topic. But I think that is rude. That's why I go so hard on somebody, because I just feel like it's just disrespectful. Fuck what you talk about, nigga. I want to talk about this. Just disrespectful. I've always thought that was, I don't like individuals like that who do stuff like that. I can't stand them. It says, so expressed in other words, it is irrational to allow someone to enter into a private agreement with someone and then allow him to take a clause out of the Constitution, off point and out of context, and allow him to take that clause and use it to weasel, twist, and squirm his way out of an agreement. Sign these contracts, and then you want to try just, how can I get out of this? How can I get, I don't even like people who use that term. It just right there, it signals, it's a red flag to an irresponsible individual. It's irresponsible. They use that word, get out. They don't take responsibility. And we got a lot of that in the world today. Yusef, can you help me get out of this? No, I'm not going to help you get out of this. Your thoughts is what attracted it to you, so you have to accept it. When you try to get out of something, you're causing friction. You have to accept responsibility for your actions and your conduct and seek to resolve the issue amicably. That should be your first thought. This is irrational and judges won't allow it. For example, let's say that I hired you to come work for me as a computer design engineer for my computer company. When you started work for me, you signed an agreement agreeing that all company information that you were exposed to while employed here and all knowledge you acquired regarding impending new products and technologies being worked on here, you had agreed not to disclose, release, or disseminate any such confidential information to any other person for a 5-year period after you left my employ for any reason. So let's say that you have now left my company and you started publishing and disseminating information you learned while here to my competitors. Your excuse for violating the agreement you signed earlier with me is that, well, the First Amendment says I got freedom of speech and press, but you signed a non-disclosure agreement. So which one is it? Freedom of speech? You see what it is? How powerful contracts are, moving in contracts? So now I take you in front of the judge and ask for a restraining order. Question, does the First Amendment apply? The answer is no, it doesn't. Restraining order granted. Reason, private agreements overrule the Bill of Rights. In other words, one does not get to use the Bill of Rights to weasel out of private agreements while retaining the gain that the agreement gave him in the first place. In the back of the judge's mind is the following logic. This is how the judges think. Well, Mr. Kondo, You entered into an agreement with Mr. Mercier to be an engineer for him, and under which you experience financial gain and profit. That is a word you always have to concentrate on. Is there a financial gain and profit? Now that you don't feel like honoring the agreement any longer, you want to take a clause out of the Bill of Rights to work your way out of an agreement with Mr. Mercier, all while keeping the money he gave you under the agreement by working for him. This is irrational. Restraining order will have to be granted. All right? Now, they got something called the Ashwander Rules. Ashwander Rules. Ashwander. This is what the Supreme Court justices go by. We got to be educated over here because the rest of the citizens out there, right, for the vote, they totally ignorant. You go on TikTok and you listen to them people debating with Joe Biden versus Trump. Everybody on those discussions is totally ignorant. You don't hear anybody knowledgeable about civics in any capacity. All they want to talk about is racism, squeezing on somebody's ass. This is illiteracy at its finest. Why would you leave the future of our country in the hands of these people, race baiters and people who want to incite you emotionally? So look, this is Ashwander Rules of Constitutional Avoidance. In case you are unaware, Ashwander Rules of Constitutional Avoidance. Well, what is this talking about? Well, you got different rules. These are the rules, 7 of them. But the one that I like is number 6, constitutional estoppel. A party cannot challenge a law's constitutionality when he or she enjoys the benefit of such law. Justice Brandt has stated the court will not pass upon the constitutionality of a statute at the instance of one who's availed himself of its benefits. So this is something you have to always take into consideration. Are you receiving a benefit? You know what a benefit is? The use of statutes is a benefit. Having the government resolve an issue of a controversy, calling the police to your house, calling the fire department. Those are services. They're not rights. 911 is a service. The government has told you many times, police have no duty to protect you. With Supreme Court. Justice ruled police do not have a constitutional duty to protect someone, but you're going to have these fools out here talking about the police are supposed to protect us. The police say we protect the public. You ain't the public, fool. The police are armed security for the municipality. They are not the sheriff. The sheriff is the constitutional authority. That's why when you get put out of your house, that's a constitutional issue. Police don't come put you out your house, the sheriff do. And if the police arrest you, who do they take you to? To the sheriff. You don't see no police officers down at the county jail. So we have a basic ignorance in society today where you don't even know the difference between the sheriff and the police. But yet you are given permission to go vote. Let's get back to our letter. So I hope this is seeping into your mind. Contracts, the Constitution, they don't go together. If you're the public, in the public, everybody has a title. Is governor this, secretary that, clerk this, deputy that, sheriff this, mayor that, governor this, president that, treasurer this. That's the public. The Constitution was written for them. We granted them delegation of powers, limited. There are 7 principles to the Constitution. This is basic stuff. You can't be functionally literate and be out here doing processes and arguing when you don't know the basics. You can't go to the NBA and you can't dribble left. You can't go to the NBA if you didn't shoot 2,000 shots a day in the gym. You're gonna be relegated to the park playing pickup ball. So what are our 7 principles? Popular sovereignty, Republican, and we need to qualify that, because sovereignty means within your sphere of delegated authority for the government. Republicanism, we have a guaranteed Republican form of government. That's one of the principles of the Constitution. I was just talking to these idiots on TikTok. Tell me we don't have a democracy? These fools arguing with me. And the word democracy ain't nowhere in the Constitution. You don't say it with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Y'all don't say that shit no more. It's probably young people out there listening to me right now saying, Mama, what the fuck is he talking about? You ain't even taught your kids. And they growing up, going to these liberal colleges, coming out, thinking you the one that's stupid. We in a democracy. Separation of federalism, separation of powers, checks and balances, limited government. We have a government of limited powers. They don't have all pervasive powers. It is us. It is the duty of we the people to put a limit on their powers. That's why they want a democracy. That's why they want communism. Communism is the elimination of private property. If there's no private property, the government is in control of everything and there are no limits. They have what is called plenary power. Plenary power, this is why they want communism. Plenary power doctrine. What is that? Plenary power. Plenary power. Plenary power refers to the complete or absolute authority granted to a governing body over a specific area without limitations. So we have a limited form of government in the Constitution. Well, how does the government have ambit of their delegated authority? The term is frequently used to describe the commerce power of Congress. That's where they get all their power. They have unlimited power under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, the Commerce Clause. Write it down. Ain't nobody else came in this space telling y'all this. I didn't watch all these gurus. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 is their unlimited power. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9 is their court system. And Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 is their jurisdiction. All the people who are Googling that right now are the intelligent ones. Because they understand when you put your hands on it, it stays with you. If you're just passively listening, you're going to be the ones going to come back. Yusef, do we need to authenticate the birth certificate? Do we need to authenticate? I know you've been saying for 7 years, but do we need to authenticate the birth certificate? I just want to authenticate the birth certificate because I like it because I ain't got to read shit. I don't have to read nothing. I just can authenticate it and I'm the owner, registered owner of my estate without picking up a book and reading shit. Yusef is over there telling y'all niggas to read. You niggas crazy. This nigga talking about reading. I ain't read no more. What's wrong with Yusef? If you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a book. And when I say nigga, I'm not talking about black. Because they're white niggas and black niggas. Nigga, it means niggardly. Ignorant. The word ignorant means to ignore something that's right in front of your face. Put it right in your face, you ignore it. You're ignorant. Let's get back to he's giving Armand Kondo a lesson in contract law versus constitutional law and how contract law supersedes the Constitution. This is why private trust are the highest form of entity that you can utilize to operate in commerce because it is protected by the contract clause, your right to contract unlimited. So, restraining order granted. So let's look at another example. Another example is this. Say that you are a convict sitting in prison. The warden calls you upstairs and offers to let you go free if you sign an agreement. Happens to bear all signed. The more I read this, the more I begin to understand the importance of qualifying your signature. What am I talking about? Let's see what I'm talking. This right here should be something that every person, you shouldn't even be in this space if you don't read this. And I did a video on this. I did a whole video on this. Because I know you don't want to read. This is what type of person I am. If you knew, I'm going to show you what kind of person I am. This type of person I am for my people. All right. This is Cracking the Code 3rd edition. And we go to chapter 10 of this document. They got an article in here, how to sign your name without liability. This is probably one of the most important articles in this book. I know you ain't gonna read it. So for the people who can't read it and the ones that's blind or they just don't know how to read, I did something for you. I looked out for you. No problem. If you go to YouTube and you put in how to sign your name without liability, Yusef L, and voila, it pops up. Wow, look at that right here on the same channel.
Take a look at Taylor's site and you can start immediately with your business.
That you don't want to read.
The LLC.
And it made a nice
You qualify on this point because you
of it, transcribed it for you, and read it for you. So you can listen to it while you're driving your truck, you're on your way to work or whatever, and you still don't want to give me no donation. Everybody on here listening to me right now don't want to give me a donation or nothing like that. Say, nigga got too much money already. But I don't do no work. I'm just trying to get money out of people and everything like that. But right here, read it. One of the most important things that you can read, because it's dealing with your signature, and you utilize your signature every day. Ignorant. Look at this. Does a natural law act as the same as operating in the private? Okay. Natural law is called universal laws. Do you understand what the word universal means? They're called universal. What is the word universal? Natural elements. What's at the top of this right here? Put in the private. I see some people making some comment. I'm thinking I'm seeing right now. Go on, come on out. Go on, come on out with that mouth. Shabu El. I think I know this person. Chief Daniel Babel is the best. He exposed you. Ain't no expose me. I know you ain't talking. He's still mad? Damn. Boy, illiterate people. Yeah, that's the illiterate camp. Y'all see the illiterate camp come over here. They follow, it's called the blind following the blind. So the blind people, they follow blind. Do not have me start to clown you. Don't do that, man. I'm gonna have to. Is that the person that was talking about we need to fill out that form saying that it was a government form? He was talking about, saying that we need our status on this government form. That we white. That white is a status. And stop using the person. Look, don't be stupid. You know what I'm talking about. Don't sit here and try to correct me on using the word person. I'm using the word person. Because I want to. Let me get this person up out of here, man. Where he at? He exposed you. Nigga, you need to get out of here. What he's trying to do right now, he's trying to draw some listeners because ain't nobody listening to his ass. Let me say this. Let me say this about your person. If you have the truth, like, see, you see me, you don't see me on nobody's channel. Because God ordained me with the truth. People come to listen. The truth is like honey. People are attracted to it. If you have the truth, people just naturally gravitate towards you. You ain't got to go and try to say nobody exposed you and try to start controversy. That are the actions of a black devil. And which I'm going to do a class on black devils. I think one of the best books that Dr. Malachi Z. York ever wrote was the book Black Devils. Because we have a lot of black devils in our race. Somebody, you offend one of these dudes, it stay in their heart for years. They be mad because I didn't kiss their ass or pump them up in front of everybody because they gave some wrong information and they can't get it out of their heart. Because I won't acknowledge them. Thank you. Universal. Universal principles. Natural law is universal. There is no place God is not. That's why it's called all. All. The all. You can't add to the all because where would you get it from? You can't take from the all because where would you put it? Because if you could do either of those things, it wouldn't be the all. God is called omnipotent, all-powerful, all-present, and all-knowing. The word is all. Look at this question right here. Do you have to be a secure party to sign without liability? That ain't no common sense no more, y'all. It ain't no common sense. Somebody think that they have to have a status to sign their name a certain kind of way. But you're supposed to be a sovereign, and you're looking for permission. You're looking to get permission from your public servant. You know what I heard a judge say one time? He said, it is a shame that public servants have to tell private citizens what to do. You're looking for me to tell you what to do. Did anybody watch that Matrix movie with the Merovingian when Neo and Trinity and Morpheus was looking for the the timekeeper, wherever he was. And the Merovingian told you, since you like to take directions, I'm going to tell you what to do. You only here because somebody told you to come here. So since you like to follow directions, I'm going to tell you what to do. The key maker, you know what I'm saying? That's what it is. You know, those movies, they're not entertainment. They're messages. They're messages to you. You're not ready to be a sovereign by the questions that you're asking. You might need guidance, but you're sitting here, you're not even thinking. You're sitting here asking me, do I need to do something else first to qualify my signature? Think about that question. You sign your name without prejudice. You got to be a status to do that? Sign my name, all rights reserved. I need a status to do that? See, you know what? This is why I don't like that word status correction. Let me talk about that for a second. The reason I don't like that word status correction, because that's how it infects people's minds. They think they have to correct something when you always have been what you are. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Status correct, that word didn't exist when I got into this. That shit came about like in 2013, 24. I think Brother Polite is the one that coined that phrase, status correction. Y'all be regurgitating. Y'all don't even know where the stuff started from. Just regurgitating shit. I never liked that word. I'm like, what this fuck status correction? It's rebutting a presumption. They're presuming something about you because you haven't put any facts. But you should already know who you are. You need somebody to tell you who you are. On the Oracle of Delphi, it tells you, know thyself. Somebody said, where can we read about copyrighting the name? I know exactly where you can read to copyright the name, but I ain't going to tell your dumb ass because I already told you we're not talking about that. Let's get back to the Armand Kondo letter. All right, so another example. Say that you are a convict sitting in prison. The warden calls you upstairs and offers to let you go free if you sign an agreement. The agreement calls for parole checking, warrantless entry of your residence at any time, and you agree not to carry any guns. You sign the agreement and clear out of prison. A month later, your car is stopped for speeding and a gun is seen half covered in the back seat. The officer charges you with possession of a concealed weapon or felon in possession of a concealed weapon. You argue Second Amendment rights during pretrial motions. I saw this on Quorum, whatever that website is. They were asking, it was convicted felons, and they're asking, man, if we got Second Amendment right, a right to bear arms, how can they tell us if we get convicted of something we can't have carry any firearms? Because this contract supersedes the Constitution. Contract makes the law. You argue Second Amendment rights during pretrial motions. The trial judge ignores your motions and sets a trial date. Question, is the judge a fifth column commie pinko? No, he isn't. He is merely enforcing private agreements. Here, you sign an agreement. Why is it called a private agreement? Because all contracts are private in nature. Here, you sign an agreement and you experienced a gain, premature freedom. Now you want to take the Second Amendment and use that to weasel and twist your way out of an agreement, all while retaining the gain, freedom, that agreement gave you. This is irrational, and judges will not allow it, properly so. The reason you got people in the comment section, these demons, that's how you know when you on the path and somebody's telling you something you should be paying attention to. They come out in force. Like, look at this person. I am God's person term may include artificial beings as corporation. We know that. We know that. We know persons are artificial. We have a whole article on the site dealing with persons. We know all that. Y'all not educating us on anything on that. Get out of here. Oh my God. You probably heard it said that federal judges will tell defendants and counsels in section 7205 here. And y'all get mad. How many times you heard the judge tell you the Constitution don't apply and y'all get mad and say, oh, this judge is, this is a corrupt judge. I'm going to file a lawsuit against him. It's not that he's corrupt, you're just ignorant. And nobody can tell you that you're ignorant. Like that dude that's in the chat right now who's still in his feelings over about 7 years talking about he exposed shit. I clowned him then, I'm going to clown him again. They still looking for attention from me. Still looking for attention from me. Like a woman. And that was one of the things about it. I'm like, man, this dude right here is kind of like, he kind of moist. That's why I didn't respect him. I said, man, you act like you're a female and shit, man. About me. See how you can't act 7 years, ain't shit changed? I'm still talking about your ass, clowny. Ain't nothing changed. I ain't apologizing for it. And if you do something, I'm going to go all in on you and try to make you look foolish again. All right? That's all that's going to happen. I'm calling you out. I'm saying it. Take it however you want to. Nothing. If anything, I'm worse than I was 7, 8 years ago when I was on Blog Talk. Because my patience is thin now. I don't have a lot of patience. Back then I had more patience and I was more considerate. I don't have the patience today that I did have back then. And I go for the throat. So the Constitution does not apply here. That statement shocks most people up a wall. But it is an accurate and correct statement. The judge will never tell you why, though. Of all of the different judges that I know who have blurted out that statement, none of the criminal defendants have ever pressed the judge for an explanation as to why the Constitution does not apply. The reason why the Constitution does not apply is because the judge is merely enforcing private agreements the defendant signed with the Secretary of the Treasury. The judge is not a fifth column commie pinko. The agreement the judge has in front of him is not the defendant's 1040 or the defendant's W-2. Those are merely declarations of facts and no profit or gain is experienced by them. The real reason is as follows. When a new federal judge are hired, nominated by a president and later confirmed by the Senate, after hearings by the Senate Judiciary Committee, after they go through that hiring procedure in Washington, they are taken back to Washington and are taken into a private seminar that are sponsored by the United States Department of Justice. It is in these seminars that new federal judges are taught and trained how to manage their criminal proceedings so as to avoid reversible error, namely absence of counsel and trial procedure, etc. They are taught and trained what the Supreme Court of the United States wants for perfecting due process. They are given Supreme Court cases to study, and sitting next to that new judge in these seminars is their appeals court justice who will be auditing appeals coming out of their trial court, confirming that the information being taught and presented by Justice Department lawyers is true and correct, and that the things will be done this way. Now, we're talking about Article 1 judges versus Article 3 judges. Article 1 judges are administrative judges. They have to follow procedure. The procedures are put in place to ensure there are no constitutional violations. That's when you do an appeal, all that the appeal does is they're doing judicial review of the procedures that were followed in court. This is why an abatement is so powerful, because an abatement is abating the procedure. Like when you haven't been informed of the nature of an action, okay, that's skipping a step in the procedure, and that's not due process. So an abatement will justify an appeal. You should all have a copy of your state court bench book. If you go in there and look at that, like in a foreclosure proceeding, when the judge gives his speech at the beginning of the proceeding, That's just not an arbitrary pronouncement the judge is doing. He memorized that word for word from the judge's bench book. He just memorized it so well when you see them up there talking, it looks like it's coming off the top of their head. They are administrators with a ministerial duty to perform. Ministerial means that they are required to follow directions. It does not require skill or anything like that. That's what an administrator is. An individual with a ministerial duty. This is why they don't like to go to trial, and why trial is a dog and pony show. Everybody wants me to review the Young Thug case. Yeah, that's a dog and pony show, man. That's acting. You getting all emotionally, they got you emotionally caught up. Why are comments being deleted? Somebody said, why are comments being deleted? I didn't delete any comments. Somebody deleted their own comments. It ain't coming from me. Said, why are comments being, somebody got scared and deleted their own comment. That's why they got deleted. I ain't deleted shit. Somebody wanted some attention, and I guess they don't want no attention no more. Somebody said, how far do contracts go? Contract makes the law. What is wrong with people, man? They don't know any principles. Contract makes the law. The doctrine of contracts. The doctrine of privity of contract is a common law principle which provides that a contract cannot confer rights or impose obligations upon anyone who is not a party to the contract. Privity of what defines a contract? Contract law, how to create understanding contracts. I'm trying to see the contract makes the law. Maxim. Let me see maxim. Contract makes the law right here. No action arises out of an immoral consideration. No action arises out of an immoral contract, but contract makes the law. Maxim of law. These right here you should study. Let's look at these right. These are common sense, commerce. Let's look at the common sense one. These common sense maxims. When you doubt, do not act. It is a fault to meddle with what does not belong to or does not concern you. Mind your business. Many men know many. It avails little to fail, learns well. Whatever is done in excess is prohibited by law. No one is bound to give information about things he is ignorant of, but everyone is bound to know that which he gives information about. No man is bound to have foreknowledge of a divine or a future event. No one is bound to arm his adversary. That's why it tells you in exculpatory evidence that the prosecutor doesn't have any obligation to provide exculpatory evidence, meaning evidence that's in your favor. People don't know these things. Consent and contracts. Let's look at, these are maxims. Consent makes the law. A contract is a law between the parties which can acquire force only by consent. Consent makes the law the terms of a contract. Lawful in its purpose constitute the law as between the parties. To him, consenting, no injury is done. He who consents cannot receive an injury. And that's why it says a maxim of equity. Equity will not help a person who will not help a volunteer. That's why they tell you that a guilty plea kills all known and unknown defenses. That's why they want guilty pleas. Guilty plea kills all known and unknown defenses. Consent removes or obviates a mistake. Same thing what I just said. He who mistakes is not considered as consenting. Every consent involves a submission, but a mere submission does not necessarily involve consent. A contract founded on a base and unlawful consideration or against good morals is null. One who wills a thing to be or to be done cannot complain of that thing as an injury. One who wills the agreement of the parties makes the law of the contract. The contract makes the law. Like when you go into equity court for a trust. If you have a trust, this is for any trust. A trust has to have a written agreement, an indenture agreement. If there is an argument between the beneficiaries and the trustees, well, the beneficiaries can take, or the trustee, they can go to a court of equity and ask for a declaratory judgment. The declaratory judgment is the judge, he's going to read the contract, and then they're going to read the minutes, and he will interpret the contract, because the contract is the law. Advice, unless fraudulent, does not create an obligation. No action arises out of an immoral consideration. No action arises out on an immoral contract. In the agreements of the contract parties, the rule is to regard the intention rather than the words. What is criminal intent? What are your intentions? This is why you always give notices, so you can make your intentions clear. Because for you to be guilty, the mind must be guilty. What do you think an examination and a cross-examination is? It's an examination of your conscious mind and your subconscious mind to ferret out what your intentions were. Mens rea, criminal intent. What are your intentions? The right of survivorship does not exist among merchants for the benefit of commerce. When two persons are liable on a joint obligation, if one makes default, the other must bear the whole. You ought to know with whom you deal. You ought to know with whom you deal. That's one of the 48 laws of power. Know with whom you deal. That's one of the 48 laws of power. You ought to know with whom you deal. Like that dude who's in the chat right now talking to me. He don't know who the fuck I am. Them dudes be coming in that chat, they talking to me. They don't even know who I am. They ain't never met me or nothing. They think they know me because they see me every day on the internet. Foolish. He who contracts knows or ought to know the quality of the person with whom he contracts. Otherwise, he's not excusable. He who approves cannot reject. If anything is due to a corporation, it is not due to the individual members of it, nor do the members individually owe what the corporation owes. Agreement takes the place of the law. Agreement takes the place of the law. The contract makes the law. The express understanding of the parties supersedes such understanding as the law would imply. Manner and agreement overrule the law. The essence of contract being assent. There is no contract where assent is wanting. So the question is, how far does it go? Read the contract and it tells you how far it goes. Common sense. Common sense. That's even part of the law. Common sense is that sense by which no other sense makes any sense at all. There in today's society, common sense is wanting, especially in this space. It's a lot of people who do not exercise simple common sense, or they're afraid to. Appreciate the 5 bones. Thank you. Thank you. Twitch 307. I appreciate that, my brother. Thank you so much. Let's get back. So we're reading the Armand Kondo letter, and we are getting some good information, some basic principles that can guide you in navigating this information. If you get down the basics, you can identify the people who don't know what the hell they're talking about, trying to sell you some shit, telling you that the government is wrong at every turn. Let's look at, I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. What was this right here? American Foreign Grantor Trust. That's not the one. Where is the article? It's it right here. EIN for We the People. That's the SSS4 form for a, I don't know, but Patrick Devine did put out some good information for those SS4 forms. But this is his website. And on here, they had an article, right? Let me see if I can search it. Factualized, I don't know what a factualized trust is. But I'm gonna tell you, on this website, they had an article saying that if you got a private trust, you ain't got to pay taxes. And got a long ass article explaining, oh, it's under the common law and all this. And I'm like, okay, we go back to this right here. And I tell you, okay, you got public and private. Okay, yeah, a private trust is private. The trust is private. But public and private don't mix. That's why the IRS will tell you they have something called form versus substance. Form versus substance. And trust. The doctrine of substance over form is one of the IRS's weapons of choice in attacking such transactions. That doctrine holds that the substance, rather than the technical form of a transaction, governs the tax consequences. In other words, they don't care about the formation of your entity. What they're looking at is the transaction. If you do business effectively connected with a trade or business within the United States, there's going to be a reporting obligation associated with that. Okay, you took a private trust and did business in the public. But see, these people are going to get you arrested because they're telling you can get a private trust and do business in the public and not have to. When it's just, no. I done came on the scene and I recognize very clearly that you motherfuckers are stupid. It's called the blind following the blind. Let's see in the Bible. The blind. This is Matthew 15:14. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall in the ditch. Amen. I mean, we in the church when I was young. I was in church in Turtle, Texas, and it used to be this old lady every Sunday. She'd be in church, and when the preacher be preaching, she be in the back and be quiet. She'd be on point, on rhythm every time. Amen. Amen. It's like if she wasn't saying that, it's like church wasn't good, because it was like rhythmic. Amen. 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 The blind, that's what we got out here. That dude that was just in the chat talking about somebody exposed me. It's the blind leading the blind. The blind. He don't like me because I told him the truth. I told him he was stupid. And he got mad at me. And he's still mad 7 years later. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want to fight no more. I'm sorry. I hurt your feelings. I apologize. Sincerely, really, I apologize. I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. But if you put out some more stupid shit, I'm going to blast you again. I'm just going to do it. All right? This is why I started a school. I started a school to teach basics. Because you got so much bullshit out of there and people are following it because they don't know the basics. For instance, if they do public and private, they know you don't need to be filling out no government forms about your status. Why would you fill out a government form? All you have to do is write them a letter. Send a certified mail with an affidavit of mailing. Those are your public servants. You have a right to write a letter to the governor, the president, anybody you want. Ignorance can be fixed, stupid as forever. You know, that's the thing. There was this dude, he posted this thing. He said, the dead don't know they dead. It's the same with stupid people. The dead don't know they're dead. It's the same with stupid people. They don't know they stupid. Argue with you. Mad. And let me say this. I try to be nice. It ain't like, oh, you stupid. I'm not that kind of person. I'll try to explain it. I'm like, look, this is not X, Y, and Z. And then they can go back and forth with me. I was like, nah, this, like that. And I'm the type of person, I will self-assess and evaluate something and see whether, like, there are people that I co-sign. I'm like, okay, this dude right here knows what he's talking about. I don't think I'm the smartest person in the room everywhere I go. But I know the principles. And when you know the principles, you can accurately assess information that's being presented to you. If you know the principles first. Contract makes the law. He asked me a question, how far do these contracts go? Contract makes the law. If you read the contract, you'll know how far it goes. That's a person that don't want to read. But they're going to get mad at me. The question is it demonstrates that the person don't read the contract. The individual don't read the contract. So they're asking the question, well, how far do contracts go? Well, what does the contract say? It's common sense. Yeah, I like, it is the principle. I give you an example. The big worm is on the principle. It's a principle like, have you ever been in the strip club? Okay, and you're a baller. You are a baller, and you go to the strip club. This happened to me one time. I was in a strip club one time, and I was in VIP, and a girl was dancing for me. And in the VIP, I think it was like $20 a dance or something like that. And I let her dance about 3 dances. Some dances just don't excite you, but I let her dance about 3 dances. It was $60. So I gave her a $100 bill. She said she don't have change. She said, I don't have change. So I said, okay. And she said, I'm going to go get some change. So I waited in VIP and she never came back. So I'm like, so eventually I get up and I go and I go find her. And I say, excuse me, did you forget to bring me my change? Very polite, not rude or anything like that. And she turned around, nigga, you don't need that money, blah, blah. She just started going in on me. Security came and snatched me up like fast. Because security was like right there. And they took me in the back office where the manager was. And he's in there going in on me like, hey, man, you in here messing with my girls, I said, say, man. I said, I'm just trying to get the change. I'm just trying to get my change. You know what I'm saying? And she's like, well, she owe you some money? I said, yes. He said, he told one of his guards, he said, go out there and ask her, does she owe him some money? So he left. I'm sitting in the office waiting for him to come back. He come back and the man say, man, she don't know what you talking about. So before he could say anything, I reached in my pocket and I pulled out $10,000 in $100 bills, and I slapped it on the table in front of the manager. And I told him, I said, man, I'm not in here tripping over $40. It's the principle behind it. And you know what the manager did? As soon as that $10,000 hit his table, he looked at security. He said, go tell her to pack her shit and go home. Boss. Oh, women may not understand what I just said, but every man who's been into a strip club knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's the principle of the thing. It ain't about the money. Let's get back to the Armand Kondo letter. Somebody say it's story time again. Yeah, I tell stories because I teach through telling stories. Because that's how I was taught when I was young. With Aesop's, my grandma used to read me stories, like Aesop's fables. I learned a lot through storytelling. That's what a lot of the very wise as me, Socrates, Aristotle, they told stories. But some of you ain't gonna get the moral of the story, because you what? Ignorant. Okay, so we were just talking about the bench book. They're given a bench book to take with them, giving the new judge guidance on handling problems as they arise on the bench. Finally, the interesting part comes. They are taught how to manage tax protester trials, violation of Title 26. Federal judges have been instructed that the Supreme Court ruled in 1896 in a case called Davis versus Elmira Savings. Now they're giving you the case law. Volume 161, U.S. Reporter, page 275, that banks are instrumentalities of Congress. They property of Congress. That is interesting. In other words, the interstate system of banks is the private property of the king. That's why you have to have what? EIN numbers before you go in there. Remember I told you that if you're going to go in Costco, you got to have a Costco card. If you deal with anything that it relates to the federal government, you need a social security card or an EIN number or something like that. You need a membership number. You ain't a name in the system, you a number. That's some more of that blind leading the blind stuff. I'm going to change my name. I'm not that name. Yeah, you do with the name. It's the number attached to the name. We're dealing in commerce. Somebody said in chat, I work at a club. You're right. Hey, man, the same thing been going on. The only thing that has changed in the strip club is the music. That's the only thing that's changed in there. Last time I went, only thing changed last 30 years is exactly the same. Only thing changed is the music. It's exactly the same. They just play different type of music up in there. So, okay, let's go. So we just found out that the banks are the instrumentalities of Congress, of the legislature. Okay, so once again, if we're falling under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9, and Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Tax courts are Article 1 courts. They will tell you that. In other words, the interstate system of banks, notice he used the word interstate as in interstate commerce. In other words, the interstate system of banks and the private property is the private property of the king. This means that any profit or gain anyone experienced by a bank/thrift and loan/employee credit union, any regulated financial institution, carries with it as an operation of law the identical same full force and effect as if the king himself created the gain. So as an operation of law means it devolves on you just naturally, automatically. By operation of law, the identical same full force and effect as if the king himself created the gain. So as an operation of law, anyone who has a depository relationship or a credit relationship with a bank, such as a checking, savings, CDs, charge card, car loans, real estate mortgages, etc., or experiencing profit and gain created by the king, so says the Supreme Court. That is why and all those are tied to your social security number. At the present time, Mr. Kondo, you have bank accounts because you accept checks as payment for books and subscriptions, and you are very much in equity relationship with the king, which I have a business. People are coming to my website paying subscriptions through credit cards and bank accounts. I have a reporting obligation. I can't sit here and say, oh, I don't have to pay no taxes. Because I understand public and private and tax law and contract law and jurisdiction. So I'm not going to look foolish going around thinking as a sovereign I can do whatever I want to do in the public. That's silly. In the words of the Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter, equity is brutal, but we are merely enforcing agreements. Remember, y'all see me on that video where I said that equity is brutal? I got a short going around. This is where I got it from. That quote from Felix Frankfurter, equity is brutal. Or in other words, judges don't like the idea of being thought upon as being mean Gestapo agents doing the dirty work for the king. They consider themselves as being struck between a rock and a hard spot, being asked to enforce agreements and without being given any valid reason as to why you should be let out of it, other than you just don't feel like being incarcerated. So what happens during these willful failure to file trials is that, number one, the Intelligence Division of the IRS surveys the local banks in the vicinity of the tax protester and obtains copies of the protester's signature card and financial transaction statements from the bank. Number two, at the time the U.S. attorney requests the judge to sign the summons, the judge has been presented with your bank account information. So now during the prosecution, the federal judge is sitting up there on the bench with your agreement with the king in front of him while the tax protester argues. Well, Judge, the 14th Amendment says, Judge, the 5th Amendment says I don't gotta. Are you beginning to see why the judge is prone to experience frustration and blurt out, the Constitution does not apply here? Oh, the judge is corrupt. The judge is corrupt. No, you are just ignorant. Meanwhile, the judge is ignoring all constitutionally related arguments and denying all motions. The judge ignored my motion, Yusef. What shall I do? I get that question a million times. People just think they stuff just supposed to work. All the while, I'm trying to teach you to learn the principles first. I've suggested this book a million times. No one reads it. No one's going to read it. I don't know what people got against reading. Knowledge is power. Reading is power. I got chains around my neck because I read. If you would go back to your bank and ask the manager to show you your signature card again, in small print, you will see the words, you will read and find out that you agreed to abide by all of the administrative rulings of the Secretary of the Treasury, among many other things. And that same thing happened in California. In California, when I was in California, I went like 5 or 6 years without a driver's license. I was doing the, don't get no driver's license thing. But when I started building my business, it was getting harder and harder to do business without some sort of state identification. Okay, so I broke down one day and went to the DMV of California to get a driver's license. So when I went in there, they still had the paper applications back then. They weren't doing the computer. So they hand me the application, and I already read everything before I sign it. So I'm reading this application, and this is an adhesion contract. I'm reading this shit. It's like, they had stuff in there like, if you get pulled over and they ask for a breathalyzer, you have to submit to a breathalyzer. You don't have no choice. So after reading the application, I gave them the application back and walked out. I've never had a California driver's license because I lived in California, never had one. So I said, man, ain't no way I'm signing. I got renewed from that. I said, oh, fuck no. I ain't signing this shit. So later on, Probably a couple of weeks later, I'm watching the news. So somebody gets pulled over in California on a DUI, and the police try to get him to take a breathalyzer. So he refused. So the police yoked him up, put him on the ground, head in the ground, he hollering, took him down to the station. They got all this on video, strapped him into the chair. He hollering, talking about the Constitution. It's all on the news. People are all talking about how corrupt the police are. But not me. I was looking at that shit and I said, that nigga signed that contract. I was the only one saying, nah, the police ain't wrong. That nigga signed that contract. And they gonna enforce it. Equity is brutal. Yeah, I'm on my right. I'm on my right. It's not fair. It's not constitutional. It's not constitutional. What are you doing? I'm going to sue you. Ignorant. They make you take a fingerprint by four. I'm trying to tell you, if you signed that contract, you don't, listen, man. I always tell this story. I bought a car and I read my contract and the finance manager told me, he said, man, I've been doing this 10 years. He said, you the first person I ever sold a car to who read the entire contract. People go in there at the DMV, they don't read that contract. They don't read none of it. You don't read terms of service. You don't read nothing. People come on my website, just not everybody, just a couple of people, and they have chargeback, or they'll say, I cancel my account. I'm like, nigga, did you read the terms of service? I don't cancel accounts. There's a button in there for you to cancel account. Ain't no refund once you join and you enter the website. But they don't read none of that. Yusef, you billing me and I cancel. I don't cancel. I put that in my terms of service. You cancel your account. You can cancel it through the button. There's one button you can push. You can pause your account, or you can cancel it through Stripe or PayPal. I don't set up any of that. I don't work for PayPal. I don't work for Stripe. I don't have access to any of that. When you set up a recurring subscription, you're not setting it up with me. You're setting it up with PayPal or Stripe. I just have a software on my website that facilitates that, but it's all automated and all 100% in control of you. And I did that specifically, not to have people saying, oh, you did X, Y, Z. No, you're responsible for your account, not me. And I put up a video showing you how to do it. Ignorant. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I love this one. This is one of the most powerful. Man, I learned so much from this book gave me so much insight. That and Clerk's Praxis and William Blackstone commentaries. Yeah, I read all those books, man. It gave me some insight. But this one right here, it gave me so much insight into it's called invisible contracts. We say it all the time. You go into court and you say this. You say, Yana, is this civil or criminal action? It's a criminal action. Thank you, Yana. Let the record show that the action being brought against the defendant is a criminal action. Now, sir, I have another question. The Constitution for the United States of America only grants this court two criminal jurisdictions. One is a criminal jurisdiction under the common law, and the other is a criminal jurisdiction that constitutes a condition of contract under criminal aspects of a colorable admiralty jurisdiction. We're asking them the question, is this common law or I'm under some sort of adhesion contract? Everything they do is contract. The Federal Reserve is a private bank. The only way that they can get you in that jurisdiction is through a contract. This is what the Affidavit of Sovereignty was addressing. Did you put your children in public school? Do you have a social security number? Do you have a bank account? Did you register your car? Do you got a mortgage? You got credit cards? You fill out a Form 1040. Do you work for an employer? Do you use Federal Reserve notes? This is why I don't follow none of these gurus. None of them. I don't listen to hardly none of them. Somebody always come in, man, you should listen to so-and-so and so-and-so. He can show you about the common law. We're dealing with contracts, man. Contract makes the law. And you don't want to be under the common law anyway. Most of y'all don't want to be under the common law, men or women. Because number one, let's talk about the common law first of all. Wouldn't be these divorces that y'all having. Let's just start right there. Wouldn't be these children happening out of wedlock. You wouldn't be screwing any woman that you just wanted to screw. If you stole something, wouldn't be just going to jail. You'd probably get a death sentence. If you raped a woman, wouldn't be going and molested a child, wouldn't be going to jail. It'd be a death sentence. You want to be under the common law? With all the lawlessness you engaged in? Under the common law, they don't take a lot of time to deal with immorality. How they deal with immorality is death. Because they say we got to get that spirit out of the community. The only way they knew to get that spirit out of the community was to kill the individual. You were looked at as having a spirit. Talking about we want to go under the common law. That chick took your money like, oh, I'm going to college. Yeah, that college excuse I heard. I mean, one told me, yeah, I'm doing this to go to college. I went in a strip club 20 years later. She was still there. I said, you get that degree? She was standing there about 20 years later. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, damn, ain't you about 45? Still there stripping? Come on, man. Let's think of Carlos Brown. I have a case where there's an injured party. I've been searching for case law that supports my self-defense claim. Any suggestions? Yeah, you can go to the law library and do a search in Westlaw. What do you want people to tell you about case law? You searching for it? Do you know how to search? What do you expect us to say? You ain't even tell us what the injured party is. Did you kill somebody? Was it self-defense? That's a vague question. How could you expect anyone to answer that question? What did you do? Who got injured and how were they injured? In Admiralty, injuries were addressed with money under Admiralty. You killed someone, you got to get 10 gold coins. Don't have 10 gold coins, they put your ass in jail until you could pay. That's called debtor's prison. That's why in Admiralty, everything is dealing with money and bonds. How do I know? Because I read Clerk's Praxis. PDF book I'm reading is right here. PDF, there's the page right here. Invisible contracts full right there. Right there on the download section. Anytime I'm reading something to y'all, I put it right there on the download section for you. I put it right there on the download section for you. Let's keep going. As for the actual taxation itself, what happens is that the king creates a juristic personality at the time you open your bank account. And it is that juristic personality, I love that word, juristic personality, as opposed to straw man. Juristic personality. Legal fiction, nom de guerre, whatever. How you're going to style it, I like that, juristic personality. As for the actual taxation itself, what happens is that the king creates a juristic personality at the time you open your bank account. And it is that juristic personality, its income and assets, that the king's agents are excising back to the king. But in any event, the taxing power of Congress attaches by contract or use of the king's property. Because you got express contracts and you got implied contracts. All contracts don't have to be written. The Congress does not have the jurisdiction to use the police powers to raise revenue. That is the proper way, the ideal Alice in Wonderland chambers. Mentions over and over again that justices may satisfy the appearance of. Erwin Schiff is an attorney, and he was a tax protester. And he was wrong too, and he's an attorney. He wrote books and everything. The Blind Leading the Blind. Google that man's name, Erwin Schiff, right here. Some of y'all know who he is. But he was a big name at one time in this space. Went to jail and everything. I was kind of thinking he was, I was thinking he was a plant. Erwin Schiff. Erwin Schiff books. Let's see what books he got on Amazon. The Federal Mafia. The Biggest Con. How anyone can stop paying income taxes. Look at this right here. Some of y'all gonna run out. Look at all these 39 ratings. Amazon making money. The Social Security Swindle. How anyone can drop out. Now that might be a good one. Erwin Schiff. The Federal Mafia. How an economy grows and why it doesn't. The Great Income Tax Hoax. Why you can immediately stop paying this illegal enforced tax. And me just understanding basic principles like public and private, I'm listening to that. I don't see why I would get that book. Just because knowing what I know. The only way you got tax evasion and tax avoidance. How you don't pay taxes by avoiding them, not by evading them. Any man has a right to arrange his affairs in such a way where he doesn't have to pay a tax. The Supreme Court has said that you're not under any obligation to pay taxes, but the onus is on you, to control your conduct or to engage in such conduct where you don't have to pay a tax. That is why the number one thing you want to do is stop using the Social Security number. That's why Secure Party and all these kind of processes were made. So you can arrange your affairs. In other words, get you a trust, get you a corp, get you a 98 number, 45 numbers, get you a CPN number, and arrange your affairs in such a way where the liability does not fall directly on you, but falls on another artificial person. That's called mitigating your tax liability or properly avoiding tax, not any tax evasion. That's taking responsibility too. I can do whatever I want to do. I can come into the public and do what I want to do and not pay a tax. I can accept benefits and privileges and not pay for any of them. That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make me an agent. That makes me an intelligent man that's wondering why I have this long line of gurus who came before me who don't understand this simply. And I see why, because nobody taught anybody public and private. The basics. And then somebody always says, so you saying, no, I'm saying exactly what I'm saying. How you infer it is what you saying. It's not what I'm saying. I'm speaking very clearly. That's another thing. You know you're dealing with some irresponsible person when they, so what you saying is, nah, I'm the kind of person, I say exactly what I mean and I mean what I say. I don't leave no room for interpretation. If you're using a social security number, what the fuck you don't understand? If you're not going to pay a tax in the public, you need permission. That's why they got, what is that? What of them, you know, you get a tax, what are them organizations you can, you know, like, you know what I'm talking about when you get, you know, like a church, don't have to pay taxes and things like that. What is it you file under the IRS code where you don't have to pay taxes? You need permission. And usually they give you permission not to pay taxes when you fulfill some obligation of government that they would normally have to do themselves. So since you're doing it, they say, okay, we're going to exempt you from paying taxes. If you're not doing that, the government only does things for the government. The government only does things in the furtherance of business. And people can't grasp this. And no matter how many times you tell them it's all commercial, they go out right outside in their city and sit out and look everywhere they see a business. They go to fast food, they go to restaurants, they go to movie theaters, they go to the damn mall, they go to hotels, they jump on planes, they call the planes commercial flight. They get all of this, and for some reason, when I say it's all commercial, they can't understand what I'm talking about. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, 501c3. Thank you. My mind locked up. 501c3. That's them giving you permission not to pay taxes. Mary Orsiki, $20. Thank you. Thank you for this class. It all makes real sense on taxes as well as contracts. You're a good teacher. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all I'm here for, is to make things clear so you can walk the path. The path. You know the path, right? What is it in Matthew 24? What is it? Narrow is the path. What is it? Enter through the narrow gate. What was it? What was that? Yeah, Matthew 7:13. Enter ye at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be that go through it. Hold on, let me read that whole verse for you. Matthew chapter 7. That's one of my favorite verses. Was it right here? Let's read this. Let's read it. Let's read this. Let's start at 12. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do you even so to them, for this is the law of the prophets. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is basically what the common law breaks down to. Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that findeth it. If you are on this channel, you have found it. You're on the narrow path. Because anybody knows me knows I have not deviated from my position. I've remained consistent all 10 years. I've been teaching this. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. You should know them by their fruits. Like they come over on my channel, start talking about somebody expose you. I ain't on their channel doing that. You should know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs or thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, and neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, by their fruits you shall know them. Man, Jesus, I can't even understand how anyone would be denying the Bible, because when you read, Jesus was a bad dude, man. He was kicking some knowledge. I'm like, what? Even if you don't believe in the Bible, he didn't live or really exist or anything like this, how can you deny the wisdom? A lover of wisdom wouldn't care if Jesus existed or not, if he was black or white, if he really wasn't a Christian, if he really died in India, not on the cross. You don't care. I'm not here to worship the man. I'm here to get the message. And the spirit of discernment will allow an individual to see what he should. I can't understand how people could read some of this stuff and say, yeah, I don't like that Bible stuff. That's a person that ain't never read it. Or just have an evil, hard heart. How can you have a good heart and read something like this and not, that's wise words? Just saying. Let's get back. Yeah, applies to Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard ain't trying to tear down nobody. But see, that's how you know. This is what you got to understand too. This is something good else that came out of the Quran. They're talking about the jinn that is in spirit and man. See, jinn are spirit beings, but jinn are also physical beings. All right. So what people are not doing, like this girl that was on Instagram saying that she didn't had 100 abortions, she loved killing babies. What kind of woman would say that? You looking at her and you think you're looking at a human being. You're not looking at a human being. You're looking at a jinn. But because you don't recognize the fact that jinns are in physical form, this is what it says in, what does it say in Revelation? It says it in the Bible too. Revelation chapter 18. Babylon the Great has fallen, and he cried with a mighty voice, with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great has fallen, has become the habitation of devils, and a hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. That's what you're dealing with. That's what you're dealing with. These devils, not people with, they gave you that tail and pitchfork story. A devil is a spirit inhabiting people with physical bodies. That's telling you to throw religion out the window, to kill your babies, to identify anything going against God and nature. Anything. Immorality. That's a demon. That's a devil. You like to think it says devils, plural. You in Babylon. Come out of her, my people. Let's read this. It says, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not her plagues. Because the wages of sin are death. Look at what you plagued with. COVID. pharmaceuticals, which is witchcraft, poverty, war, AIDS. You don't think you're being plagued? Divorce, broken families. All as a result of this book not following, this book that they keep demonizing, you're not following it, and you're seeing the result of your action. Women want to be in charge of the family, want their own money so they don't have to be under the authority of a man. These are all plagues, and they all lead to chaos. No order. That's what you're dealing with. So let's get back. It says justice must satisfy. Now he was concerned about this statement. He said justice must satisfy the appearance of justice. That's a legal fiction. And that when a man is thoroughly convinced that he is on the right side of an issue, a man like Erwin Schiff, that justice has not satisfied the appearance of justice unless the criminal defendant is aware that he did wrong. And on these tax protester trials that require a sentencing hearing lecture by the judge to the defendant on why and where the defendant did error, so I disagree with the modus operandi of federal judges to this extent. And let me say this too. I read a Supreme Court case because I'm in trust, and this dude, he was selling some constitutional trust. He called it sovereign constitutional trust or something like that. And he took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and they ruled against him. And he still believed he was right. And they put sanctions on him. And I read it, and because I know trust, I said, the government's right. You're wrong, man. Why is this? He was selling those trusts for $3,500 a pop. And he sold it to they had to put an injunction on him. He sold 10,000 people. He was making money. I don't have a problem with him making money, but he's selling a product that he don't understand. The blind leading the blind. Telling them you ain't got to pay no taxes. I'm on this subject just right now, other than you should be cognizant of the countryside asking people to stop defiling themselves tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. It would not change a single thing, other than the Irish persons would continue on as usual. As it pertains to the proposed restraining order the king's agents are trying to get against you and your alter ego, please get a copy of examine the last 5 words in paragraph B under the court's equity powers. This petition by the United States for a restraining order against you is legitimate to the extent that you are in written contractual equity with the king. When you trace back the genealogy of your signature on your bank card, you will find that you agreed to be bound by Title 26, and under Section 7202, you agreed not to disseminate any fraudulent tax advice. And the concept that Federal Reserve notes are not taxable instruments of commerce for any reason when the person has a written agreement with the king saying that Federal Reserve notes are taxable. This concept is in fact fraudulent. I would encourage you, Mr. Kondo, to prove me wrong. You can prove me wrong by asking the judge. He's giving you some information. Please identify the instrument I signed, Judge, which creates an attachment of equity jurisdiction between the United States and me. That goes back to the question we were asking. Yana, under which 2 jurisdictions am I operating under? If he says an admiralty jurisdiction, you say, could you please identify the contract that obligates some sort of type of performance on me, and could you please put that contract into evidence and show how I'm obligated to perform under said contract? It's all consistent. This goes right consistent with the court survival guide. The federal judge probably is not going to want to disclose what document it is that you executed which created the attachment of equity jurisdiction. Remember when Howard Freeman said that he had the discussion with the judge and they said, you operate under admiralty, call it anything you want, but don't call it admiralty. That's why none of them will tell you. You won't even get an attorney. He's not going to tell you nothing. They all know. Next sentence. Give me proof. Ignorant. Just ignorant. Don't know nothing. You let these devils come over here. Show me some case law to support what you're saying. Fool, they hiding something. We're trying to expose what they hiding. Common sense. This just ain't no common sense no more. People don't even have enough common sense to identify that when somebody asks that question, how ignorant that question is. Show me some proof. And I started, when I first started doing this 10 years ago, I used to tell people, I said, this information is like, this is the very first story I told. No one has seen this devil. No one has seen him. But let's pretend that. And he said, hey, Joanne, what's going on? Yeah, hey, what's happening? Come sit by the skin like he's on the hot sauce bottle. And he started telling you, hey, you remember when you was 12 years old, you stole that candy out of the store? And remember that, you don't think I saw when you did X, Y, and Z, huh? Let me tell you something, girl, I'm going to see you. And then he leave. And then you go outside. The first thing you do is call your friend, your girlfriend. Girl, you won't believe what happened. I just saw the devil. Now, you're going to have two types of responses. Your friends that know you very well are going to give you the benefit of a doubt. Girl, really? Yes, girl. He really exists. How he look? Just like on the hot sauce bottle. She's back of her mind knows she might be kind of wondering, okay, is she okay? You all right, girl? You ain't smoking nothing or nothing like that, are you? You ain't drinking or nothing like that, you know. She gonna give you the benefit of a doubt. Now, when she grabbed the mic and come on the internet and say, I met the devil, it's gonna be people just flipping past the channel. This bitch crazy. She crazy. But all of the people, other people who met the devil are going to say, yeah, girl, I saw, he visited me too. That's what this information is like. They set it up where the only way you can know it's true is you have to experience it for yourself. They set it up that way. Ain't no goddamn proof. All I can do is go through the laws and show you what the law says and the principles. You asking me to show you the devil. Well, the Bible says there's a devil. I'm reading the Bible right here. It says the devil was cast out of heaven right here. That's all I can do is read the Bible. That shit in the Bible is true. So you should never apply for credit with your SSN. Not if you don't want to be an acceptor of a benefit and a privilege. Do the SSN belong to you? Read the card. Once again, let's look at this real quick. Somebody said, should we apply for the SSN? On the back of the Social Security card, we can read right here. Do not, right here, let me read this right here. First of all, the first thing about this card, let me see if I can blow it up some more. The first thing about this Social Security card, Okay, it got this number on the back. These letters represent the Federal Reserve 12 districts. The same letters that are on your dollar bills are the same letters that are on the back of your Social Security card. Right here it says, do not laminate this card. This card is invalid if not signed by the number holder unless health or age prevents signature. And proper use of this, what the hell? And proper use of this card and or number by the number holder or any other person is punishable by fine, imprisonment, or both. This card is the property of the Social Security Administration and must be returned. All right, my internet is, I don't know what is going on. I got super fast internet. I don't know why all of a sudden things are starting to mess up. But I think I have said enough. I'm gonna come back to this though. I've been going on almost 2 hours, 2.5 hours now. I can't keep going. But I think y'all get the picture of what it is I'm trying to convey to you. Oh, I like this right here. Let me read this last part. I would encourage you, Mr. Kondo, to prove me wrong. You can prove me wrong by asking the judge, please identify the instrument I signed, judge, which creates an attachment of equity jurisdiction between the United States and me. The federal judge probably is not going to want to disclose what document it is that you executed which created the attachment of equity jurisdiction. They have been asked not to let the cat out of the bag. The IRS handles the bank account equal equity relationship on a military-style, need-to-know-only type basis. You can file a mandamus in the Circuit Court of Appeals or petition for subpoena ducis tecum returnable against the United States Attorney to compel discovery of what it is that you signed that created the attachment of equity jurisdiction the King's agents are now acting under and trying to get a restraining order against you. This type of equity jurisdiction always attaches by written contract. And it was wonder, you know, I told an attorney when he found out that I knew about a subpoena ducis tecum, which is a subpoena for documents. I see he looked like somebody walked over his grave. He said, how'd you know that? I'll never forget that. He said, how you know about that? He gave a lot of remedies in this document on right to travel, everything. Whoever this cat is, he's among some of the most intelligent in this space. That's why this went nationwide. This is the end of it. If this restraining order has already been granted by now, then get rid of your bank accounts and file a petition for reversal next January. Your argument being that you are not in an equity relationship with the king anymore, then the First Amendment would apply then. But it does not apply to you now since you are in an equity relationship with the king and private agreements overrule the Bill of Rights. That's it for today. Like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be back on tomorrow. This is an important video. It's a very important, I know I talked a lot of shit on it, but this is an important video. It's an important video for you to understand if you are interested in anything relating to this space. When you subscribe, hit the notification button to help the algorithm. Like this video to help the algorithm. This is a very, very important video. You should be sharing this video everywhere, and you should take the time to really read George Mercier's Invisible Contracts. Peace to the gods. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Maybe tonight. I don't know. Peace.